How is everybody doing today? I am about to make a video on sampling old soul records, and this is a very specific style where you take a bunch of different little pieces from one particular song and you figure out how you can rearrange those little pieces into something fresh and new. And if you don't have a turntable at home and you want to cut up real vinyl samples, I'm going to put a link in the description, and this link has a bunch of blogs and sites, and they're all free downloads where a bunch of people rip a whole bunch of old funk and soul vinyl and R&B. Even if you do have a turntable at home, you should check out this link. It's just tons and tons of vinyl samples. So what I'm going to do, I picked out two songs. The first song is called Stop the Bells by members of the staff. I'm going to show you what chops I picked. I'm going to show you why I picked them and how they interact with each other. I am using the machine pads right now inside of Ableton's drum rack, but like I always say, you can use your computer keyboard if you want, or your MIDI keyboard. You can use whatever you want. The important thing to know inside a drum rack here is right here where it says choke. I have all the samples set to 1, and that means they're all going to cancel each other out. And that way, when I'm hitting a bunch of pads really fast, all those samples aren't playing over top of each other and sounding horrible. This is the very first little piece I selected. And you'll hear on the first snare hit, there's that sample going bay. And I don't hate that, but I don't want that to happen every single time on every single snare hit. So the next thing I did was I found a snare hit that was just plain, that sounded like this. And so now instead of, we have this. And that's going to be the backbone of the beat. So the next thing I did, now that I have this plain snare, I found two other snare hits in the song that had interesting vocal things happening over it. Here's the first snare. And then here's the second snare. And so basically I'm looking at it like this. This is a kick. And then these three pads are like alternating snares. So now I can do something like this. Now on this sample right here, if I just let it play for a second, it does that little all through my head sample, and it ties right back in with the original first sample. So listen. And then also on this plain snare sample, if I just let that ride out for a second, baby, I like that little baby sample. Baby, but you'll notice it has that little ingesta. Baby, I don't really like that little ingesta. It's just kind of random. So I wanted to find one more piece to put in place of where that justa is. And I found this little hit. So now I can go. Baby. And also this one. The through my head also works with that hit. So now we have this. All right, let's move on to the next song, and this one's going to be a little bit more complex. The song is If Lovin' You Is Wrong by Luther Ingram. The very first sample I picked out sounds like this.
It's no future in loving a man.
So the lyric is saying there's no future in loving a married man, which is oddly specific for like a sample or a beat. So all I did was shorten it to
no future in love.
There's no future in love. Now that sounds like some hip hop shit.
No future in love.
And then on the next pad, I just wanted to be able to stutter that love.
No future in love. Love.
So this sample is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that is the second one.
No future in love.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now these next two samples and this one, notice the snare is the second hit on both of these. And that means these samples are starting on the 2. So these samples are going 2, 3, 4. So the fact that this sample
no future in love
is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, I can pick up with either one of these to go 2, 3, 4, like this.
No future in love. No future in love. No future in love.
And also on these two samples that I'm counting 2, 3, 4, you can stutter them and play them as their own loop like this. Like that. Okay, so that covers this bottom row, these first 4 samples. Let's go to the next 4. This sample right here, just a good little breakdown. And this next one is the snare from that sample. That way you can kind of play this like a kick and a snare. All right. And if you remember on the first song, I kind of had those alternating snares. I'm doing that here too. This next sample is another snare hit that says when I can. So now, just like the other song, I can alternate these two snares. All right, easy enough. Now this next sample right here is going to tie the whole room together. It sounds like this.
I can't see you, I can't see you.
It's saying if I can't see you, and that's going to coincide with this when I can.
I can't see you.
And also,
I can't see you.
the if I can't see you works, because I can say,
I can't see you. No future in love.
if I can't see you, there's no future in love. I also found another little hit, kind of like I did on the first song, that sounds like this, that I'm going to use on the turnaround. All right, so let's hear what all this sounds like put together.
No future in, no future in, no future in love.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace.